Welcome to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School, where we explore all kinds of things, stories about quilting, tools, field trips, maybe some famous quilters stop by, and, of course, a little bit of copyright thrown in just for fun. My name's Elizabeth Townsend Guard. I'm a law professor at Tulane University Law School, and I just want to quilt. Today we talked to Rachel Bishop. She is a quilter. She is also works at the Quilted Owl, a local quilt shop here in New Orleans, in Metairie actually, and I think, or Harahan, I don't know, like out on the like the suburbs of New Orleans. She also is, so she's also running this group, a block of the month, for the Splendid Sampler, and that's the Pat Sloan and Jane Davidson blocks that were made by a whole bunch of quilters, and like 23,000 people have, probably more now, I'm sure more, have made these blocks, and they're so much fun. So we talked with Rachel, and we also made a little video that hopefully will get up soon of her helping me to figure out how to make things a little bit better. All right, so tell me your name and where we are.
Okay, my name is Rachel Bishop, and we are at the Quilted Owl right outside of New Orleans, Louisiana.
Awesome. And what's your first memory of someone sewing or quilting in your life?
Well, I did not grow up in my mom does not do anything domestic in the sewing world. She cooks all the time, but my grandmother, my dad's mom, did sew, and she made quilts, and we had quilts around, but it wasn't something she did by the time I was old enough to remember. She had kind of almost given up in that aspect of her life, I guess. I think it was something she did when her kids were younger and for necessity more than out of enjoyment. I don't know. And so, but as I got older and I started thinking about what I wanted to do. So first I tried knitting because I have a girlfriend that knits, and I was like, oh, that'll be fun. That's going to be my crafting. Uh-huh. And I can do it, but I never really had this passion about it. And so then I was like, well, I want to quilt. I'm going to quilt. Well, first you have to learn how to sew and use a sewing machine. So I did that.
How did you do that?
I took a class here in New Orleans. I don't know that they're still open, but it was So NOLA, I believe, and they were on...
Were they on Oak?
Yes, they were on Oak.
Gigi. Did you take it from Gigi?
Well, Gigi and her partner.
Gigi Bai, right.
Yes.
And her partner, right.
I took
We've
classes.
interviewed Gigi, and she's part of our quilting army.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So I took my first class with Gigi.
That's great.
And so she's the one who taught me.
She's like, I made 3 jackets with her, and she was like, and I didn't know how to do any of it, and I was on a deadline for cosplay, and she was like, you can do this. You can totally do this. And you know what? I could. Like, did you feel that way with her?
No, so she taught me how to thread a sewing machine. That's and how
great.
To, I made I made a pin cushion. That was my first project, was awesome. A pin cushion. And then I just caught the bug. I was like, I have to do more. I had my husband and I looked, and we bought a sewing machine. I bought just what they had in their shop because I was like, well, this is what I know how to use.
Right.
So,
and what kind of
it was
machine was it?
A pretty basic Brother sewing machine,
cool.
Nothing fancy. And so that's what I was like, I can do it. And I made pillowcases and I made pillows, and I was like, now I need to learn how to quilt. I'm like, I can sew.
That's really great.
And, in my mind, I can sew, right? So I started looking into...
How long ago was this, do you think?
This was, I think we're going on 3.5 years. So I really haven't done it a whole lot, but I jumped like completely in.
Right.
Like it was from the moment I was in.
Right.
So I started looking about where do I learn to quilt. Mm-hmm. And so with there's 2 quilt shops here in town, and I looked, Mes Amis, the way they do their quilting classes didn't really fit my schedule.
So it's interesting. We have, as you said, I think we have 4 shops. We have like a half quilt shop up on, right?
So this is
before that.
That was before that.
So Mes Amis is really interesting. It sort of tells you that we're looking at different shops during how shops are, and they're all super different, right? So Mes Amis is up by the lake, and if you want a class, you just pay your money, and they teach it whenever you want to teach something. They're they're not driven by classes. I'm not sure how they make their income at this point, but they're not about the class, which is really interesting, right?
Right. And so I was like, for my personality, I knew I needed more structure.
Yeah.
And so I found the Quilted Owl, and they had a class coming up, and I was like, oh, perfect. It was full. So I was like, well, I'm going to take the next class. So then I had to wait, 2 or 3 months till I was able to take the class. But in the meantime, I took some more classes, like practice classes, and I made a little clutch, and I did this and that, and some basic sewing. Like they taught how to, at the Sew Nola, to put a zipper in. And so I got a little more comfortable with my machine, I guess we should say. So then that brought me to my first class here, and I was so nervous, and how do you pick fabric, and you've never done this, and so I came in, and Angie, who's the owner, explained to me, she's like, okay, try to pick a focus fabric, and then we'll go from there. Well, at the time, again, I didn't know a lot about color and things. So the fabric I picked, which it's beautiful, it's like this blue with daisies, but there wasn't a lot of color in it. But we made it work. So my first quilt is all like blue and tans, and but it works. But we picked I think you needed like 15 fat quarters or something. They want you to have a contrast of light and dark. And then I had my daisy blue fabric for my border. And so I came to my first class so nervous. I'm like, oh my gosh, these people are going to hate me. They're, my perception was I'm going to be the youngest person in the class, and all these ladies have been sewing their whole lives. And here I am. I just learned how to thread a sewing machine, And I mean, yes, a lot of them had been sewing. There was 7 of us in the class, but nobody had quilted, and nobody really had these exceptional skills. So
you felt comfortable.
I felt comfortable.
What about the age? Were you the youngest in the class?
Yes.
Yes.
But that does not bother me.
Yeah, it's interesting because it is heavier towards my age and older.
Yes.
But there's a lot of younger ones too. So it's really interesting kind of, it runs to there's little ones but there's in your 20s, 30s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really does run. And I think the 20s and 30s are kind of taking over at the moment, which I find really fascinating.
Yes.
That there's kind of a revolution because of the internet and sort of who's being entrepreneurial, that it's fascinating to watch. So tell me more about what happens. You took your first class.
Yes. So Angie, the owner, and Lucia, who is her full-time employee. So Lucia works full-time here at the quilt shop as well, or who teach the beginning machine piecing class and quilting. And it was an 8-week class. And so every week we got, we learned a new technique. First week we sewed, it was about how do you cut, how do you use a ruler, how do you cut with a rotary cutter, and just the very basics. And I think we made a 4-patch.
That's great.
Just very simple 4-patch. And then they sent you home with homework. And I just fell in love, from that very moment. It was
what did you like? So I fell in love too. So tell me what did you fall in love with?
I think I felt, first of all, the Quilted Owl is my happy place. I come here when I've had enough of the day at work. I tell my boss, I say, I'm leaving. I have to go to the quilt store. And he laughs at me and he says...
So when you come here, what do you do when you come here? When it's your happy place? Are you buying? Are you just hanging out? Or what are you doing? Are you quilting?
I come and I shop some. Now that I'm here, back then I was only here, here and there to shop and for projects. And now that I'm here, so I've been working. We're open one Saturday a month, and I work on that Saturday. And then I last year started my second Saturday, the third Saturday of the month, as we do the little sampler. So I started that last year.
You did?
Yes. So that Saturday is my baby.
That's really interesting. And I'm part of that.
Yes,
right?
so you're doing this one.
Sampler.
And then last year we did a Jaybird quilt.
Oh, fabulous.
Yes, so we did one of her quilts, the Sweet Tooth. And so that's been my little group. So I am in charge and I, run it, and it's been my brainchild.
That's really interesting. That was your idea. Okay.
Yes.
So let's back up. So what do you love about quilting?
So I think it gives me a creative outlet. I've never been super creative in, I don't do art or anything like that, but I find that I like that it's relaxing to me. I can, my job can be stressful, and just life in general is, always hectic, and I can go into my room and just, it's quiet, or I can put my earbuds earbuds in and listen to something, music or a podcast or something, and I'm not bothered by anybody. I can, just play with fabric and pick colors and move it around, and I always have about 6 projects going. So I can work on one and then I can go to another one. Like if I get tired of making some simple block, I can go to something that may take me an hour to make one block, and it's just, and then at the end you have something. And it's like, I did this. Right. And that's what it is. Like it's the I did this.
I think my
feeling.
Favorite part is the sound of the sewing machine.
Oh.
That I find like I'm really tired, but I just want to keep hearing the sewing machine. So I'll sew longer than I should, which usually make mistakes. But I think it's funny. I like all the parts of it. But, some people say they like the feel of the fabric or the smell of the fabric. Like it's just interesting to see sort of what people like about it.
I like that, I did that, and
did that.
The mistakes, they're mine too,
That's true.
I mean, and that's okay.
Right. So tell me about you, because I had said that we had interviewed Vanessa, who's the Crafty Gemini, and you said, what? You said to me.
I said, I did her quilt club.
Right.
Yes.
So tell me about that. Tell me who she is and tell me about the quilt club.
Yeah. So she, I think I first saw her on, YouTube because, that's where we all go now to learn things. So I had been taking classes here at the Quilted Owl, but, sometimes you're like, they taught me how to do this, but I need to see it again. And so you go to YouTube to find a video. And I somehow came across her in my YouTube search. And I just liked, I never did like a lot of the quilt projects, but I liked the aspect of the club with the group. And then, we do like the monthly, you could sign up for monthly swaps with other members. And each month it was like a project driven thing. And so that was so fun because you got to know somebody on a different level, and
how big a group was it?
I think that total, she averaged around 1,000 members. Now, I don't think that many were active per se, but
amazing.
Yes.
And then did you pay a fee to be part of the group?
Yes, and I couldn't even remember what it is now if you ask me.
Interesting.
10, 15, 20, somewhere
something
under $20,
like that.
and so
under a month.
Yes. And so she did every year there was a quilt that she did. Like I said, I didn't do it just because I always had other projects, but I liked doing the swaps every month, and there would be different themes,
and you felt part of something.
Yes, you felt part of something, and you were making. I like making for other people. That's
interesting.
I don't keep a whole lot of what I make, so I like be like, are they really going to like this? And I remember one of my first ones I did, the lady loved Amy Butler fabric. I had never worked with Amy Butler fabric, and I didn't have that in my stash. So I went out and I bought Amy Butler fabric to make her something. And it was a butterfly done in all this Amy Butler fabric, and it was just beautiful. And I was so excited about it, and she was so excited, and that makes me happy.
That's really cool.
So I liked that part of it.
That's really cool.
And then the videos, she does great. She would always do these great tutorials, and I still go back. Like I made one of the microwave bowl.
Those are great.
I was like, I want to make one, but I'm like, how do I dock the corner? How? And so she has a video, and I watched it a few times, and now I make my little bowls.
Do you think that this notion of being part of a club, of having a community online, is an important part of your quilting experience?
I think being part of a community, whether it's online or in person, is important. I think that's how we learn. And, if we don't have someone to, we can all bounce ideas off of everybody. People, there's several groups that I, have, Facebook pages and
so
stuff.
What groups do you like on Facebook?
So the Quiltville, which is Bonnie Hunter. The Pat Sloan group. And then there's one other one. And I like, Twilters. Have you heard of the Twilters?
No, I don't know the Twilters.
Okay.
What are Twilters?
So the Twilters apparently started out as they were the tweeting quilters.
Ah, interesting.
And so now they have moved to Facebook, and they have a Facebook group, and a lot of them blog, and some of them podcast, and so they are very active. A lot of, a good member group of them are very active in quilting. And so I love the Twilters. They're hilarious, and they are super supportive to all their members, and you can post a picture